Well, I think there's a lot to be excited about from the perspective of an oncologist or from the perspective of a patient. I think there's an array of targeted therapies that are in development. Often in these classes, there might even be multiple compounds. For example, if we look at the what's called the PI3 kinase class of agents in development, I mean, there are several agents in development from multiple companies. I think right now the question is what's going to be the next big target that we can suppress that's going to lead to clinical benefit for patients. So we know that targeting EGFR is important and targeting ALK is important, and we have good drugs on the market. And yes, there are exciting so-called next generation versions that are in development. For example, a compound called LDK for patients with ALK rearrangements. There are next generation EGFR inhibitors, and maybe one soon will be approved by the name of afatinib. I think the excitement, though, as exciting as those things are, I think the real excitement is, can we find other targets, other markers in patients to help develop a similar story where we can identify a marker and take one of these new oral therapies, a PI3 kinase inhibitor, a MEK inhibitor, an mTOR inhibitor, and achieve those same type of dramatic results. I think there's some preliminary excitement with the MEK inhibitors in patients perhaps with KRAS mutations, although that's very, very early and more work needs to be done. I think there's almost anecdotal experience in the PI3 kinase class of drugs. And much of this experience is outside of lung cancer, patients with tumors where we know there are common alterations in PI3 kinase or something called AKT or PTEN, PTEN, where those drugs can result in remarkable results. Are those results going to be similar to patients with lung cancer? I think we don't know yet. We're waiting on those studies to mature. Another area, though, that's picked up some excitement in the last year has been this idea that you can stimulate or harness a person's immune system to fight the cancer. And I think there is a lot of excitement with several compounds that we term antibodies to PD-1 or PD-L1. And there are several drugs in development in that class. And we all have had opportunities or most of us have had opportunities to work with some of these agents, and anecdotally it's been remarkable, and the studies that are maturing and have been presented so far look very promising. But ultimately we have to do the registration or phase 3 studies to show that this kind of approach is better than what we've been doing, which is chemotherapy. And those studies have actually launched and are in progress. So it could be that in the next 2 years, one of these drugs is actually on the market and available. I know there's excitement in the community among patients coming to try to get access to these drugs. It's important to caution that we still have more work to do. So far, there's been early promise and safety with this approach, but more work needs to be done.